I have no time or energy for the Vixen. I would not be putting any energy into that. She's literally a deranged person with mental issues, I believe.
I'm going live because the Vixen is literally obsessed with me, and she literally cannot stop talking about me.
You always say, if you did someone dirty in public, then you need to apologize to them in public because everyone saw you do dirty.
Hi, Ugly. It's me, Bussy, and welcome back to my channel. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much to everybody subscribed to my channel. We just passed 100,000 subscribers, which is something that I never expected to happen, let alone this quickly. So thank you for everyone that has helped make my dreams come true, whether you've just liked my videos, hit subscribe, or taken that extra step and also supported me on Patreon. Thank you all. Now onto the video. If you've been online in the drag world recently, you'll know there's a lot going on with queens like Tamisha Iman, Monet X Change, Bob the Drag Queen, and Kandy Muse. And if you haven't or don't know what I'm talking about, make sure to get caught up on my recent videos covering the Tamisha Iman situation. Boiling up underneath all of that though, was a feud between Monet X Change and the Vixen, which has been a little bit hard to follow as it spans across the past couple of weeks and multiple different platforms, and includes content from deleted Instagram lives and tweets. This feud that started back on May 1st finally came to a head on May 14th with an explosive Twitter fight between the Vixen and Monet X Change and an Instagram live from Monet herself. There's a lot to talk about, but before we get started, I want to remind you that this video documents a feud between real people, not TV characters. And while this feud has largely been conducted in the public eye, I do want to encourage you to consume this content passively. There's no need to pick a side or even go to any of the queens mentioned in this video's social media profiles and tell them what you think. With all of that said, let's get started.
Like, what I'm realizing is that I was literally minding my business and she randomly tweeted some random shit about how I did Kesha Black Girl Magic. That means you were in your bed and you're thinking about me.
To explain how we got to this point though, we need to jump back to the beginning. Back to when the Earth, the Sun, and stars all aligned on May 1st. Tamisha Iman woke up that morning, got into full drag, and started a mission at 5 a.m. to tell the world that she was going to make an example out of Monet X Change for the critiques that she received from her on the Sibling Rivalry podcast.
I do not love this look. It's not my favorite of hers.
You about to get what?
In response to Tamisha, the entire drag world was chiming in. It was like the real world equivalent of that scene in Mean Girls when Regina puts the pictures of the burn book all around the school and kids are like running and screaming and like calling their parents to come pick them up. The Vixen tweeted this: "What y'all not gonna do is gaslight a black queen who stands up for herself over a black queen that makes a living poking fun at other black queens." A Twitter user replied, "Monet X Change and that one queen have always been a bootlicking corporate clowns for World of Wonder and Rupaul and mouthpieces to dog queens who stand up against the system of racism and favoritism while claiming to stand against it." Another Twitter user replied to that saying, "I find it hard to believe you actually believe this. Bob created and hosted an entire virtual black queer town hall last year highlighting black and other minorities and raising money to support the community." To which the Vixen replied, "The irony in this, I have to laugh." Bob then chimed in there saying, "I don't get it, what's funny?" And the Vixen finally said, "A lot." The next day, May 2nd, Bob and Monet published an exclusive Patreon-exclusive Sibling Rivalry podcast episode entitled Tamisha Iman is Coming for Views, with a description that asked people not to reclip it and share it on their YouTube page. I wonder who they could be talking about. And since they did specifically ask people not to include clips from this video on another YouTube video, I won't do that. But I am going to go ahead and tell you some of the things that were said in this video and the minute markers so that you can go check out this episode on their Patreon and give it a listen yourself if you're interested. Around the 13-minute mark, Monet reads the Vixen's tweet thread that I just read for y'all. Monet and Bob then provide some context for the Queer Black Town Hall that was hosted by Bob and Peppermint. They say that they raised over $260,000 for queer, black, brown, and people of color. Monet then says, and I quote, "The Vixen is one. She loves to weaponize her race and perpetuate these really incendiary things that just aren't true." And then around the 30-minute mark of this Patreon-exclusive podcast episode, Bob and Monet publicly invite queens like Rosé, Utica, Blair, Tamisha, and the Vixen to participate on a future episode of their podcast. And then around the 34-minute mark, Bob and Monet are discussing the Vixen, and Monet brings up that she actually just spent time defending the Vixen on a previous episode of the Sibling Rivalry podcast. Here's a short clip from that episode.
Who is the villain of season 10?
Well, I think people like to paint the Vixen as a villain. I do not think Vixen was a villain.
Say their names. Come on. Who is the villain?
This is going to cause more drama for you. Someone who came off to like a little bit annoying to the girls and also watching the footage, Eureka.
2 days pass and we don't really hear much from either side on this feud. May 4th rolls around and everyone is like sitting at their computer, refreshing, waiting for the Tamisha Iman live, where she said she's going to make an example of Monet by reading her old looks for filth. Instead, Tamisha takes the opportunity to announce that her new show is going to be rolling out on the Tamisha Iman network, available through her website via a subscription. After this, Bob kind of takes matters into her own hands and declares that she's going to give the people what they wanted by reading Monet's old looks on her own live. But before that event, and while putting on makeup for it, Bob goes live on Kizha Carr's Instagram to discuss the events of the day. The Vixen comes up as a topic of discussion, and they start talking about some of the Vixen's tweets from the May 1st, and they invite Vixen to join. And Kizha then asks the Vixen to clarify the tweet that she misquoted earlier from May 1st.
The only thing that I tweeted related to any of this was that I felt that people shouldn't be gaslighting Tamisha for speaking about her feelings on what Monet had to say about her.
The tweet said, or implied, that Monet makes her living tearing down Black queens.
I think Monet and you, Bob, at times pick and choose how woke you want to be, when you see racism in situations, when you don't. And that inconsistency is what has a lot of people side-eyeing.
Well, like, what is the situation where I've chosen not to be, quote, woke?
I'll give you an example. There's been times where, when I first on the show spoke up against Aquaria, you had my back. You said, the Vixen is right, changed my mind. But then there was other times on Twitter when I talked about how being a part of the Drag Race franchise made me feel like a slave, and that you had a big issue with. But that was my experience to discuss, not for you to negate.
For reference, the Vixen is referring first to a tweet that Bob made on April 6, 2018. I'm willing to hear all opinions. I will not be responding unless you really come sideways. With the change my mind meme modified to read, the Vixen was right about everything, change my mind. For context, this would have been tweeted right after episode 3 of season 10 aired. In that episode, Aquaria confronted Vixen twice, once saying, "Can we talk about how your best drag is someone else's wig though?" referring to the Vixen winning the previous episode's best drag. And Aquaria later confronts Vixen again, accusing her of being negative in the workroom. This fight is dragged out and then later continues in Untucked, where Aquaria starts to cry. The Vixen brings up that because Aquaria is crying, she starts to paint the picture that she's the victim and the Vixen becomes the angry Black woman. When these episodes were originally airing, Them.us published an excellent opinion piece on this topic, giving some social context to why what the Vixen was saying was super important. Here's a short excerpt. When non-Black people engage Black people in objectively disrespectful ways, the point of focus often readily shifts to the response of the aggrieved party. For Black people in these circumstances, anything short of polite subjugation is quickly deemed an overreaction. The second set of tweets the Vixen is referring to are from June 24, 2018, where the Vixen said this: "So disappointed in anyone saying that I shouldn't be challenging the system. This mindset did not free the slaves. It didn't win us gay marriage, and it won't get Trump out of office. We should always challenge a system that oppresses us." To which Bob responded, wait, I'm confused. Are you comparing being on RuPaul's Drag Race to being enslaved? For context, this exchange would have happened right after the reunion for season 10 aired, where the Vixen infamously walked out mid-discussion with RuPaul. The Vixen later did an interview with a publication called Into concerning this walkout. She was asked, "Do you feel like Ru read a lot of negative intention into everything you did?" To which she responded, "Yeah, it felt like I was talking to a Reddit troll. It was like, with her being a person in the public eye, you think she would understand that I had more layers than that." So to summarize, that was the Vixen giving an example of Bob, quote, choosing when and when not to be woke. She then further clarifies to Bob her feelings about Monet on this same topic.
I could go on and on about times with Monet where I've been in meet and greets with her and she took her time to compliment every blue-eyed person that walked in, or "I love your blue eyes," or "I love your red hair," and paid dust to every Black person, other person of color that came up to the meet and greet. I've been in interviews with Monet in other countries where they asked us about the racism that we experienced in America, and she has flat out said that she didn't experience racism growing up in Brooklyn, which maybe that's the truth, but it sounds tainted to me.
As a side note, I did try to find this original interview, but it doesn't seem to be published online anywhere. There was a quick little 2-minute red carpet thing that Priyanka did with her and Monet where they talk about diversity in drag, but they don't seem to answer or respond to the specific question and response that the Vixen is referring referring to. Monet and Bob do later bring this up though, so remember that this happened. Bob then debates Vixen's assessment of her choosing to be woke by saying this.
If I don't agree with your expression, that doesn't mean that I'm not woke because I don't express my blackness in the way that you express yours.
Agreeing with me isn't what makes you woke or not.
And then they move on to the next subject, the Queer Black Town Hall that Bob and Peppermint hosted last year.
The insinuation what you said was like, I just made a tweet out of the blue referencing you. And when instead what happened was you were like, I just find it really funny about Black Queer Town Hall. I just think it's funny. So my response was, what's funny?
The fan that commented mentioned that you started a Black Town Hall, and I said that that was ironic. What was ironic about it is that your town hall happened after the town hall in Chicago that I helped orchestrate. That was the irony, and I made that clear to you in the text 2 days ago.
You didn't say this is ironic. You said, this, I have to laugh.
And I also said the irony, and then I have to laugh. But what I'm saying is in all of those situations, I did my best to not escalate it. And yet here we are, you hopping on live to call me onto the live to entertain these fans with petty drama.
For context, I did a little research on these town halls, and they were 2 separate events, both hosted in June of 2020. Bob's Black Queer Town Hall was a 3-day event published to YouTube on dates June 19th, 20th, and 21st. And according to the organization's website, it says that it is a platform committed to celebrating Black queer excellence by supporting and cultivating community, sharing knowledge, and uplifting voices. The Vixen, on the other hand, is referring to an event that she helped orchestrate entitled Chicago Black Drag Council Presents Town Hall. This event aired live on Twitch on June 20th, and from what I can tell, was created to call out racial inequality in the city, specifically within the drag and gay scene. Bob then makes it clear to everybody watching that she does not support hate towards the Vixen.
All I've ever spoken is positive things about the things you do for your community, how amazing the work you do is over at the Chicago Black Drag Council, how amazing the show Black Girl Magic is. I do celebrate you. I want nothing but success for you.
There doesn't seem to be a clear resolution between the two during this live, and the conversation comes to a relatively peaceful end with the Vixen saying this.
First, I want to say thank you for everything that you just said. I really did not care to be that involved in any of this drama. I spoke up for Tamisha because I felt that it was unfair that she was getting so much hate for venting her emotions about the situation. I want to leave. I want to leave on a happy note as much as possible, but thank y'all. Peace out.
After that, the Vixen tweeted, "Thank y'all for the love, learning every day that I don't need to be a part of these conversations to fulfill my destiny. XO." The next day, we don't hear much from Bob or the Vixen specifically, but Vixen does tweet out her merch. The Vixen was right. However, we do finally hear from Monet regarding these recent events. Monet went live with Lady Bunny on the Stereo app to answer fan questions in regards to the topic, are reality TV fans out of control? A fan sends in a voice question asking if Monet is okay with everybody attacking her online. She says this.
I think the good part of this, like 95% of fans are like, she's delusional, the Vixen is delusional and crazy, and literally the Vixen tried to go online saying, oh, how Monet X Change said that she's never experienced racism in Brooklyn. Monet X Change wanted a meet and greet, and she only hugged and liked all the white fans with red hair and blue eyes, and all the black queens, she paid them dust and didn't say anything to them. I'm like, that just sounds literally absurd, so I'm fine.
I don't know what the beef is with Vixen either, and I've also never met Vixen.
She's a nasty person. She's a fucking liar and a nasty person.
And finally, a fan asked this question.
Can we talk about the Vixen just randomly calling Monet a coon?
For context, I don't know what this person was referring to or where what they were saying allegedly happened, but Monet responds and says this.
I have no time or energy for the Vixen. I would not be putting any energy into that. The bitch is fucking crazy, and I have no time for that. She's literally a deranged person with mental issues, I believe.
Now, after this, I kind of thought this was overdone, squashed, because we didn't really hear anything from either side for the next 9 days. So we are skipping ahead to May 14th, where the feud continues on Twitter and Instagram. For some context around the tweets that I'm about to read, the Vixen and Monet are referring to a drag show called Black Girl Magic, which is a show created and hosted by the Vixen in Chicago. According to the Vixen's website, Black Girl Magic is a drag concert where queens of color can celebrate their unique experiences through storytelling and performance. Now, back to our timeline. Around 3 p.m. Central Time, the Vixen tweets this. Who did Kesha at Black Girl Magic dressed as Black Panther? To which Monet responds, Too vague. Why the F is you so obsessed with me? And it's worth noting here, Monet is quoting the Vixen when she says too vague. That's one of her catchphrases from season 10, used originally when she confronted Aquaria about Miss Cracker copying her drag. The Vixen even sells merch with this phrase on it. The Vixen responds to Monet saying this: I don't know, I've always loved Oreos. And for the record, you did 2 Black Girl Magic shows and chose non-Black artists both times. You opened with Endangered Species, which you learned from me when I did it in Gainesville. Glad you was taking notes, but still ain't understand the assignment. And about 2 hours later, the Vixen quote tweeted one of Monet's tweets from the previous day, which said, blank in Chicago swear they got a beach, bitch that's a lake. Saying, blank in New York put the trash in the front. It's not even a metaphor. She then tweets out, at Naomi Smalls, duh, put your tap shoes on if you want to, we can go there today. Clarifying that she tweeted this because Naomi liked Monet's original response to the Vixen's tweet. The Vixen followed up in this thread saying, after this ish, there will always be smoke between us, honestly, with this clip attached.
Okay, well, we have one from the Vixen. Yes, it's gonna be a good one. Should I get up and storm off?
For context, this clip is from a live stream hosted by Voss Events, which is actually behind a paywall, and was originally streamed on June 27, 2020. The Vixen then further clarified in a tweet saying, this was a conversation on Black Lives Matter, and I was asked to send in a question. At the mention of my name, Naomi decided to mock me. Yes, my feelings are hurt. No, she has not made amends. If you don't understand that, just be quiet. Later that evening, around 5:45 p.m., the Vixen then tweets about one of Sibling Rivalry's prior podcast episodes entitled The One About the N-Word. Her first tweet regarding this includes a clip of Nina Bonina Brown and Mystique discussing this podcast. A fan then responds to the Vixen with the episode link, and then the Vixen posts a 45-second clip from that podcast to this Twitter thread. Here's that clip.
Oh my God, we should reach out to Harlem Hookup.
Girl, like, because a lot of people, like, you watch his porn and in the comment section, like, I can't believe he had that white boy calling him a I can't believe, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I'm like, that is so hot.
It's kind of hot. Is that horrible?
That is so
horrible?
Bad.
It's kind of hot though.
Oh my God, our listeners are going to be like, what the is wrong with y'all fucking motherfuckers?
I don't necessarily think that I want it for me, but I like it was kind of hot to see someone else having that interaction.
Oh no, that could not work for me. Oh bitch, we will be fighting.
But to see the interaction, I was like, oh, it was kind of hot.
Yeah, it probably won't work for me, but it's cool to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell Jacob, like, Jacob, don't try that trick.
In response to all of these tweets, Monet X Change then goes live while she's in the car with Bob on the way to the airport.
I did Black Girl Magic, like, what, 3 years ago at this point? Mm-hmm. Like, she's literally obsessed with me. It is very interesting.
Monet says that she's not really sure where all of this is coming from and describes their last exchange saying this.
Last exchange of Vixen I had, I was doing Work the World in Mexico City. I'm literally on stage performing. I look down to the left, and there is one of the fans, aka the Vixen, sitting there watching the show.
Not one of the fans.
I mean, she obviously was a fan of the show. She was there. I tried to, like, get her backstage and everything. Like, that was the last exchange meeting I'd ever had with the Vixen, and now she just on here doing what she does, race baiting, because that is her entire identity, her entire existence is this.
She and Bob further addressed that podcast clip, the Queer Black Town Hall, and the comment that the Vixen made about Monet X Change during meet and greets.
And now she's posting some random clip about from the podcast about Bob and I talking about Harlem hookups, and she's obviously doing what the Vixen does, blowing it completely out of context and trying to just gas everyone up. Like, you're a f***ing loser. You're sorry.
Oh my God, you are mad. Do you think that there is some level of hurt going on there?
For sure.
Because sometimes she, like, says stuff and I'm just like, well, that wasn't true. Like when she said that you've never experienced racism, when what you actually said was you started experiencing racism when you came to America. So it's always like taking what you said and then making it, like, just subverting it a little bit,
right,
and, like, changing the truth of it. Or like when she said the Chicago Drag Council Town Hall was before the Black Queer Town Hall. And then I believed it was, and I went back and looked and I was like, it actually wasn't. It was actually after.
Yeah.
But then in my head, I was like, am I crazy?
Her whole thing is about blackness and being pro-black, and her entire life is attacking other black queens on social media. You reconclude. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They're discussing the public nature of this feud when they say this.
Bussy Queen about to rip this. And
just in case the Vixen misses it, I'm going to save this to my page so she can watch it.
And yes, I did rip it, and the live was originally saved to Monet's public Instagram page, but was deleted sometime like 12 or 24 hours after it was posted. Monet then says this.
Bob and I do a sponsorship with a lovely company called BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com, where the Vixen can go to this place and receive help for the things that she needs help with. You know what I mean?
And then Bob further poses the question of a discussion between her and Vixen, asking this.
Would you ever want to like talk to her about it?
No. Just
that's
like
valid.
Just like Tamisha, I have no desire to talk to the Vixen.
Monet then ends this live stream saying this.
But that's her MO though. That's what she does. She like does a thing, and then when there's a response to her action, she's like, look what you guys did. No, you did that. You did it.
In some now deleted tweets, Monet later follows up that Instagram live video saying this. Did you, at the Vixen's World, at literally the first Black Girl Magic, with a video clip of the Vixen performing The Greatest Showman? To which the Vixen replied, yes, itch, these lyrics can be taken and applied to a Black experience. You did Cannibal by Kesha in a Black Panther costume. F out of here. Another fan then responded to Monet's tweet saying, so let me get this straight, she did a song written by 2 white men, sung by a white actress from a movie that whitewashes the life of a man who literally tortured Black people for money, and she's coming for you? I'm sorry that she continues to pull you into her clownery, sis. To which Monet responded, girl, stop making sense. The last tweet that I saw from Monet regarding this feud said, also, you never see the other queens fighting like this. Leave it to this dumb gutter itch to start ish with me for no reason and have the Black queens fighting again. Trash. The Vixen finished up that evening's Twitter feud with the following tweet saying, tomorrow I may regret calling her an Oreo, but when she decided to call me a blank, the rules of the game changed. It's the way I presented nothing but facts today and still get hate. Why? Because people don't want the truth, and they want non-threatening Black people who can make them feel better about their own problematic tendencies. Y'all can get the F out of my algorithm now. Black fans trying to make light of Monet calling me blank. Since when is that what rude girls just say casually to each other in front of these mostly white audiences? Oreo behavior. Bob did later chime in on Twitter, responding to the Vixen with a link to their sponsored BetterHelp.com link that Monet mentioned in that Instagram live. Since this original exchange, it appears Monet has deleted all Twitter traces of her involvement and also removed that Instagram live from her page. To summarize, we saw a feud between the Vixen and Monet exchange escalate from a couple of tweets on May 1st to a full-blown Twitter fight on May 14th and an Instagram live from Monet exchange. Like I said in the beginning of the video though, I don't think there's any point in us as bystanders picking sides here. But yeah, watching these events unfold in real time can certainly provoke strong emotional responses from us as fans of these queens. Unfortunately, we as outsiders are rarely seeing the entire story told, even in retrospect like this, with tons of back and forth between these two queens. Personally, I of course hope the queens can work out their differences sometime in the future. In the meantime, you can support them using the links in the description of this video, and remember, do your part in this fandom to spread positivity, not negativity. Because if you don't have something nice to say, probably shouldn't say it. As always, I want to say thanks so much for watching this video, and to give an extra special thanks to my patrons who truly make my channel possible, and for just a couple bucks a month, help support my channel financially and get special benefits like early access to my videos, exclusive videos, access to the Bussy Queen Discord server, and more. You can join my patron family at patreon.com/BussyQueen, which is linked in the description of this video. I also want to give a special shout out to Aiden Smith, Ali Al, Anthony, Bradley, Cameron, Cherry Poppins, Christopher, Claire Moosdale, Clark, Deutsche Leather, Fabio, Fractalize, Freddie, JJ Bearclaw, Cody P, Got the Morbs, Jake, Jenny, Gen X, Jonah, Johnny, Kiki and John, Maddie Morissette, Madam Muffy, Nathan, Olympus Mons, Venus, Opal, Queen Cersei Canister, Ron, Shannon, Shazzy, Sky, Sunshine, Tina, Timotheus, Timothy, Tony, Unique, Vendetta, and Wheelie, who are all supporting me at my hottest tier, and Angel, Caroline, Cyrus, Hope, JB, Joseph, JP in Dallas, Laura, Nurse Luca, Matthew, Mike, Rochambeau, Robert, Scooby Snacks, Sailor, Steven, Tom, and Triton, who are all supporting me at the Bussy Queen Collector tier. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye.